welcome back to Blanche Case Fitness. It's Tuesday, and you know what that means. It's time for Perpetual Motion, the class where we never stop moving. And welcome to week 4 of April Powers. Holy crap, we made it. Wow, what a weird month. What a weird month it's been. But yeah, here we are. We are rounding out April Powers. Oh my goodness. And it feels like April was here and then gone. But also a lot happened? I don't know. Time has no meaning. Hi, everybody. Good to see you today. It's been lovely here. I mean, rainy, but in an appropriate, like, springtime way instead of well, we want to precipitate, but we're also going to give you weird cold weather, so it's all going to be snow kind of a way. So I appreciate that. And I have successfully moved through my second COVID vaccine shot. Thankfully, I did not end up getting anything worse than a sore arm, which is very, very nice. Radical, but also unsafe. Yes, true. But yeah, so I'm actually feeling a little energetic today, and perhaps ready to do a little exercise. You know, hanging out here doing our really intense week 4. Oh my goodness. I know y'all are ready. You've got this. You've been doing class all damn month, and you have totally got this. Yes, no, I figured as much. Oh my goodness, but yes, we've made it here. We've been ramping up all month. We've been challenging ourselves. We've been met with challenges that we didn't expect. So, you know, as we're heading into this last week, you know, look back at the last month, because I know that for me, April Powers did not go the way that I had planned or hoped for it to go. And that can be really frustrating, but also I'm here and I'm still working and I'm still exercising, and I do know that I have improved, and you know, that is what I'm going to take with me, because like, it is important to set goals. Goal setting is great. Goal setting is motivating. Goal setting is important. But we don't want those goals to be chains, right? We don't always achieve all of the goals that we set, or we, you know, achieve a certain percentage of what we were trying to do, but aren't, you know, don't get the rest of the way. And that's fine. That's fine, because you know what? We're not in a rush here, all right? We're looking for my usual afternoon yawning. But no, we're looking to create sustainability. We're looking to create, you know, habit, and we're looking to create the structure of a life, and none of that comes with the requirement that we have to hit exactly the targets we say we're going to hit at exactly the moment that we say we're going to hit them. And if we don't hit those targets, then we've failed somehow. Okay? So, you know, we do these quarterly, month-long programs because challenging ourselves is important, and it can be really inspiring. And giving ourselves permission to really dig in and say, all right, this is going to be the month that I test my own boundaries, is really awesome. But also, the world doesn't stop turning just because we are doing a month-long program. And things are always going to come up. And it's so important for us to be able to take that step back and to say, things came up. This month did not look the way that I expected it to look, and that's okay. That's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I didn't hit all of my targets. I did not attain the mythical perfection that I intended to attain, and that's okay. Or maybe you did, you know, maybe you had a rockin' month and are really feeling jazzed up and really feeling like you improved in a new and exciting way, and that's awesome too, you know? So wherever you are today, heading into week 4, I want you to pat yourself in the back, absolutely, no matter what. And I want you to think about, like, you know, people like to do the like rose thorn approach, where they're like, think about the good things and then identify the bad things. Let's just focus in on the things that you achieved this month, you know? And so maybe, and there's so many things that we could have achieved. We could have improved our strength, speed, stamina, you know, intensity of our class. We could have gotten from able to do only 50% of any given work timer to getting close to 100. Or we could have gone from taking 1 class a week consistently to taking 4. You know, there's so many different success criteria, and it's important that you are the one designing those criteria for yourself, okay? Not me. I'm not up here telling you this is what you must achieve. This is your journey, all right? I'm just here to guide you along the way. And speaking of, I'd say it's almost ready to get going. So if you are brand new to this class, welcome. This is a strange time to join it, but I'm glad you're here anyway. Welcome to Perpetual Motion, the class where we never stop moving, also known as the half marathon of HIIT classes. So this class has a slightly different structure than my other bodyweight classes. In most of my classes, we'll do a workout timer. We'll get to the end of that timer, the final horn will sound, and you get to just sit back, relax, chill, yawn, drink some water. In today's class, when we get to the end of a workout timer and that final horn goes off, we instead move immediately into our active rest exercise, which is an exercise called cross jacks that I will demonstrate when it becomes relevant. 13.1, absolutely. We'll see when the next time I get to do a half marathon is. But yeah, so from the time that we begin the warm-up to the time that we end whatever I tell you is the final set, you don't stop moving, okay? So this is a class that is focused on stamina. All right, first and foremost, this is your first time in class, focus on stamina, focus on trying to maintain enough energy to be able to keep moving for the whole time, rather than trying to go in all gung-ho and go, I must immediately be able to smash these exercises. Just focus on trying to move the whole time. Alrighty, it's intense, but I believe that you can do it. 0.0 bumper stickers. Ooh, I should get one of those. That does sound fun. Let's do our pre-class checklist, my friends. So make sure you've got your water in whatever vessel you're using. Again, since this class, you are going to be moving the whole time and you'll be on your feet for the active rest exercise. Make sure you put your water somewhere where you can easily grab it from a standing and moving position. And you're going to have to figure out how to drink water while bouncing around, which if you've ever run a road race is hopefully a skill that you have, but just is something to keep in mind regardless. So you've got your water, you've got your comfy clothes, whatever that means to you. You've got your mat or mat-sized space on the floor. And if you use a fitness wearable, we can turn them on now to high intensity interval training. Woo, woo, woo. Yeah. All right. All right. Oh man, it's so gorgeous out. It's interesting because it's still gray outside, which it was last week when it was snowing. But I think the difference is that with the rain, I can still see the like greenery of the grass, and that helps me to feel more like it's actually spring and less like time has no meaning. All right, it's warm up time, my friends. Hiya! Look at it. There we go. This is how you can tell that my arm is better. I'm scooching myself awkwardly across the floor, using it to balance myself. So, remember, as soon as we start this warm-up, we do not stop moving for the rest of class. So on your mats, on your backs, 1 foot crossed over the opposite knee. And as soon as you hear that timer go off, we will begin with hip rocks and bridges. All right. Yeah. So, yes, it's week 4, but this always bears repeating. Even in week 4, even in this week that if you've been taking class with me all month, you've been sort of building to and building up the intensity of your focus on class and your achievements. This is still a boot up sequence, okay? This is still the time in class where we are booting up all of the systems that we need in order to be able to exercise safely and effectively. So we are, even in week 4, not here to go for 100% or 120% energy output during this warm-up, okay? Our goal, switch feet, our goal is to just get everything going, notify all of the systems that yes, it is exercise time, and yes, we do need to get everything going, all right? So, you know, letting our brain know that, oh, okay, it's time to start sending electrical signals down through the nervous system to the individual muscle fibers, letting those muscle fibers know that, oh, looks like I'm about to be working a bunch, so I'd better make sure that I'm activating my energy production systems and getting all those processes going. So that's where we are right now. And none of that requires us to be going for max energy, okay? And particularly on Tuesdays, where we're going to be moving for the entirety of class. And you know what? No matter how long you've been doing class, this is still an intense approach. All right? This is still going to be an intense approach. So you need to make sure that you have enough energy to get yourself through the entirety of class, to just be able to maintain movement. And that's the thing. On perpetual motion days, that consistency of movement becomes part of our bare minimum. So we know what our bare minimum is most of the time. Starting on time, stopping on time, and doing the exercise correctly. Okay? On our perpetual motion day, that gets flipped up a bit because starting on time is messed around with because we don't have defined stop exercise and start next exercise points, which is fine. We'll talk about that more in a little bit. But the other thing that gets added in to our bare minimum is keep moving the whole time, okay? And keep moving the whole time does not mean keep moving the whole time at 120%, all right? And you will find that if you just focus in on the bare minimum, you are going to get more than enough of a workout to go, oh yeah, that was great exercise. All right, beach position, still lifting that bottom leg. So when we come into our Tuesday class, we add that 4th element to our bare minimum. We make sure that we remember that we've truly sort of let sink into our brains that we need to be able to keep moving for all of class, or get as close to that as possible. Again,
frequently I will talk in absolutes where none exist. So if this is your first class, you may not have the stamina yet to be able truly to keep moving the whole time. And that's okay, okay? You're gonna give me your bare minimum, whatever it is today, and I guarantee you, even if you aren't able to keep moving 100% of the time, you are still going to get an awesome exercise. All right, other side for our leg sequence. And the next time you take class, you'll be able to keep going for a little bit longer, and you'll build up slowly. But yeah, we are here to our goals, our non-negotiable goals, or not non-negotiable, but our consistent goals are coming in here, moving the whole time, all right? And so just start there and start doing the exercises correctly. Because we always want to start with that foundation. We always want to focus in on the foundation before we go anywhere else, because getting that strong base allows us to keep exercising safely going forward. All right, top foot flat on the floor in front of that bottom knee, lifting that bottom leg, making sure that knee is pulled backwards so that it's pointing straight up and down. It's not caving forward. So you probably need to engage a lot of the muscles in the back of your hip joint. It's going to depend on your hip flexibility. So on that first side, I can just sort of set it and forget it. On the second side, I definitely am aware of having to use more muscles in order to keep the knee safely positioned. And this is a great place for me to practice this because it's low risk. I'm not putting any standing pressure on my leg or on the knee itself. So if it does cave forward a little bit, it's not the end of the world, but it gives me a place to go. This is what I need to be striving for when we get to things like squats. All right, back to that beach pose, finishing out our leg sequence. Yeah. And in terms of foot positioning, I haven't talked about this in a while, but that's because I truly don't have a preference. So I generally sort of go back and forth between just a neutral foot and keeping the foot flexed. And there's not really any rhyme or reason to why I do it. If you want to be pointing the foot, that's totally okay too. That's going to engage some additional musculature, as is keeping the foot flexed. So just be aware of that. You know, when I keep the foot in a neutral position, I'm really focusing in the work on the thigh muscles here, pulling that leg up, not worrying about anything in the calf area, okay? All right, now moving into opening up hips and back, which is always just so satisfying after a day of sitting at your desk or standing in a retail job or, you know, whatever mostly unmoving thing you do for work, because most of us end up in those situations. And either way, your hips are probably crying out for a little bit of movement and getting to stretch out a little bit. So we start here with our scorpion twists, just getting the back nice and loosened up and keeping those elbows pinned firmly to the floor. All right, up we go, holding our imaginary PVC pipe above our heads and doing our nice big torso rotations, changing directions every couple of rotations, like this, so that we even ourselves out, because we're only going to do this on one side. So you want to make sure that you are actually doing the entire or evening it out rather, so that you're not overworking one set of muscles and then going, oh dang, I didn't get to use that other set. And remember, the movement generates from the hips, okay? So rather than moving the arms and trying to follow along or diving over with the head, okay, we want hips. All right, still holding our imaginary pole, and we begin our squats. So now is where we start to pay attention to our squat positioning with a little more seriousness. So making sure that the knees are going straight over the feet the whole time, not caving in towards each other at any point during the motion. And right now my position is about shoulder width apart for my feet. If you're struggling to maintain that distance between your knees at that width, narrow your stance a little bit. Practice here. Okay, this is easier to hold on to. Let me practice here. Strengthen up for a few classes, few weeks, few months, however long, and then try again. All right. And now our nice Samson stretches, stretching out the front of the hip flexor by taking this nice, deep lunge position. You've got a straight leg back there, okay? So we're not doing a double bent leg lunge. We're keeping our hips pointing straight forward the whole time, all right? So we're not letting the hips open up towards the back leg, all right? And we're just reaching our arms straight up towards the ceiling. I'm not actively trying to bend backwards. There is a bend in my spine just because of the lunge positioning, but I'm not trying to intensify it deliberately, okay? And then just standing up to that front foot. All right, and now our last position before we move into the cardio section. So we're taking this nice wide squat position and hands on the knees, and we're just twisting one shoulder in towards the midline, then the other, and that's it. So we're getting a nice twist in the upper spine, which we didn't really hit in the scorpion twist. So this is our opportunity to get that part of the spine a little bit stretched out, woken up, moving around. But our shoulders and the attendant spine twist, that's the only movement. So I'm not coming up and down out of the squat position. I'm not letting my knees follow behind, nothing. And now for cardio. So we start with our jumping jacks, which is just a nice, simple place to start. Gotta love it. And again, yes, we've reached the cardio section of the warm-up, but we're still in the warm-up. So we're still booting up systems. So I'm not going for huge jumping jacks here. I'm doing small jumps, keeping my elbows bent, just focusing on getting my heart rate up a little bit, getting my breathing going a little bit faster, and just engaging that system and letting it know, okay, now's the time for exercise. All right? So we've got 2 more items in our cardio part of the warm-up. First is kick throughs, kick and other side. And I'm just gonna move super slowly back and forth. And if this is a new exercise to you, then yeah, move slowly. It's got a lot of parts. We put one hand flat on the mat, shoulder directly over wrist. Opposite leg is the standing leg. That's at a 90-degree angle, knee pointing up towards the ceiling. And then we kick the remaining leg across, then put that other hand down and switch sides. And we just go back and forth and back and forth, just like that, okay? All right, last but certainly not least, we've got our burpees. And remember, when the final horn goes off, we do not stop moving. We will go immediately into our cross jacks. So I will demonstrate those as soon as the horn goes off. So everybody, just remember a nice wave push up and then a big old victory clap up at the top. And we're finishing out our warm up with an exercise that many people really dislike, and I understand, but it does get easier. Okay, cross jacks. So, sorry, just setting a timer. Basically a cousin to the jumping jack. So we jump our feet out and bring our hands out like this. Jump our feet in, one foot crossed in front, hands in, one hand crossed on top, and then out and other side. And if you want to modify, you can do the arms while just kicking the feet forward, or you can just go side to side. Just make sure that you're moving the whole time and that you're drinking water, because that is still important. Oh my God. Bears repeating. Thank you for that. Oh my goodness. All right. Water time. And because we are in week 4, I'm not going to spend a ton of time describing what we're doing because we've got big timers today. All 1-minute intervals for our perpetual motion timers. So we got to be here and we got to be ready to go. And our first set, first set, we've got our London bridges. Yeah? Oh, that's why that timer didn't seem to be moving, because it was paused. We've got our London bridges. So from the front plank, one hip down almost to the ground, up and other and up. All right? And then we've got chaturanga to downward dog. So from that front plank, down almost as if we're doing a push-up. Leave the hips by the floor, extend the arms, push back to that downward dog, and repeat. Alrighty. I feel like there are just so many little pokey bits on my mat. It is infuriating. Alright. So, 1-minute sets, alternating back and forth. Right now you're doing cross jacks. As soon as that horn goes off, you get immediately into London bridges and start, all right? So that's part of what we were talking about with our, our starting on time and how it looks different in a perpetual motion set or just a perpetual motion class, okay? Because starting on time when we're doing tabatas is really easy to parse because you've come to a stop and you're chilling and then you hear the warning sound and you go, All right, cool. I'll get into position, and as soon as the horn goes, you start moving. Like, it's super simple. But with perpetual motion, we don't have that nice, okay, there's the ending horn, and now we stop. We hear that horn and have to immediately begin doing the next exercise. So you want to make sure that on a perpetual motion set or in a class that's all perpetual motion, your focus is on minimizing the amount of time that it takes you to get from one exercise to the next, okay? So starting on time means minimizing that transition. Stopping on time means not beginning that transition until you hear the horn go off, okay? And so we start there, right? We start with those focus points and we move from there. So that's what starting on time and stopping on time looks like. Doing the exercise correctly is the same no matter what. There is never a difference from our perspective in terms of what is being asked of us for doing the exercise correctly. The only things that might differ are if you have modifications that you need to make to keep yourself safe, okay? But otherwise, it's form. We know what the form is. And then it's perpetual motion. So that fourth component is making sure that we are moving the whole time. We are either doing an exercise or we are moving into position to begin the next exercise, okay? That is what moving the whole time looks like. And it's particularly intense on Tuesdays because we're just moving the whole time. But whenever we do perpetual motion sets, that is still something that we need to focus on, okay? That is still a component that we're working on. So I want you to make sure that you're keeping that in mind whenever you're doing a perpetual motion set. And it kind of goes hand in hand with starting on time and stopping on time. In a perpetual motion set, stopping isn't until whatever the true final horn is. We don't have any extra horns in the middle to tell us, okay, cool, I get to have a little rest here. So we just need to make sure that we're moving until we hear that final horn. It will always be that distinctive air horn sound. That will always be the final horn. No matter what. There are some other shifts to the timer sounds, depending on whether it is a perpetual motion or a ta-ta-ta, but the final horn will always sound the same. So you can count on that, and that is a really nice thing to be able to count on. Because the whole purpose of these timers is basically to program our brains to know exactly what is being asked of them based on nothing but the sound that the timer makes, okay? And once you have that sort of locked into your brain, you're good to go. You are absolutely good to go. So with with the timers in this class, I know that I have basically Pavlovian responses to them at this point, you know, because somebody can come up to me and do like knock, 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 and in my head, I'll hear the next part of the Tabata timer sequence, the ba-ba-da, and it's just, it's habit, it's rote at this point. So that is the most important thing about the timers for these classes, is basically helping to remove, reduce the number of things that you have to pay conscious attention to, right? So there's a lot of stuff that I need to be consciously paying attention to make sure I don't injure myself, to make sure I'm listening to any of the signals that my body and brain are trying to send me. And so there's a lot. So the more that I can move out of conscious processing and into subconscious, the easier it will be for me to focus my attention on the really important parts, okay? So, yeah, you'll start to feel it if you haven't already, and frankly, most of you have probably been taking class with me for long enough that you already have those Pavlovian responses, but if you are new and you're still building them up, don't you worry, you will absolutely get there eventually, to the place where you hear a sound and you know exactly what that sound is trying to tell you. Woo! Holy crow! Oh man. All right, and up, and immediately back into cross jacks. There we go. You know, when I built this program at the beginning of April, I did not actually realize how intense that set in particular was going to be for me. And it's why I try to do class with you all, you know, so that I am aware of what I'm asking other people to do and how difficult it is. But man, that one's been hard. Okay. So, next set. We've got split squats and side planks from the elbow. So with our split squats, 1 foot forward, most of the weight's on it, 1 foot back. Remember, skis, so you don't have the back foot directly behind the front foot. And down into a double bent leg lunge, and up, and down, and up. All right, and then our side plank, up on the elbow, shoulders directly over the elbow, extending those legs out, lifting the hips up, other arm directly up towards the ceiling, and just hanging out. And remember, we alternate sides each time, okay? So if I start out with left foot forward for the split squats, and then on my left arm for the side plank, next time around, right foot forward for the split squats, right arm for the side plank, okay? So just keep that in mind. You want to make sure that you are always switching. All right, get ready, my friends. Yeah, there we go. And remember, with our split squats, we don't want to, again, if I brought my back leg forward, it would set up in a nice parallel position right next to the front leg, okay? So don't try to balance with 1 foot directly behind the other one. That's just going to make all of this harder and a little more dangerous. All right. I just hold my hands in front of me, which is fine. You can do whatever you feel most comfortable with. Remember, we are not dropping all the way down on the knee. You may tap it briefly, but only if you have a lot of padding under you on the floor. And otherwise, that knee stays off the floor. Okay. Nothing like a minute of a held position like a side plank. So we want to remember to breathe. Yeah? Breathing, super important this whole time. You are not trying to hold your breath because that will prevent you from moving around. I understand that reasoning, but it is not the way to go because your muscles are still working hard right now. Even though we're not actively moving, they are still engaged. They are still working, and they need that oxygen and that energy, okay? So, make sure that you are always breathing. I don't always get to demonstrate the breathing as well as I would like to because I have to talk the whole time. So that changes a lot of my breathing patterns. So I try to remind you as often as I can, since I'm not necessarily able to demonstrate that particular behavior. Now, with these squats, make sure that your front knee is not pushing forward past the front of the toes, okay? You want that shin as perpendicular to the floor as possible. So keep that in mind as you position yourself, and especially over the first couple of repetitions. You know, that's where we really start to settle in and to go, okay, where is my form? What do I need to pay attention to? Now, in these side planks, one of the things we want, well, two things that we want to work against. We don't want to sink down in that shoulder, okay? We want that shoulder engaged and strong and pushing away from the floor. And we don't want the hips to sink down to the floor like this. We want them to be engaged and strong and pushing away from the floor. So we'll talk a little more about that when we get back around to it. But yeah, engaging your core in these split squats is going to help just to hang on to your positioning. And when you come down into the squat, you should feel this front hip pulling everything into line. Again, my hips are pointing straight forward, and that can feel really difficult because we've got one leg way back here and it's trying to pull this hip. So one of the ways to prevent the knee from going super far forward is, as you're going down into position, make sure you're pulling that front hip backwards, and that will help, okay? So for our side plank, we were talking about how to prevent our hips from sinking down towards the floor. So here's where we start to use some visualization techniques. So imagining that I have a string attached to my hip and it's pulling up into the ceiling
being controlled by an imaginary puppet master, basically. So you want to make sure that that puppet master has control the whole time and is pulling that hip up. And you can add an additional string around your fingertips of the arm that's extending upwards and do the same thing. And so both of those visualization techniques will help you to just keep pulling away from the ground, all right? And that's the big thing. So again, second side, check in on that form. We're in our last run through of this exercise, so you want that form to be just as good as the first time through. So where are my feet? Where are my hips? As I go down into the double bent leg squat, where's that front knee? Checking in on all of that stuff so that it is still just as good at the end as it was at the beginning. Yeah, 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 yeah. And hopefully you've been remembering to switch back and forth, because that's kind of an essential component of this particular exercise. So making sure that you've evened yourself out and that you're hanging onto that form, that you're not falling off the mat like I am, and try not to take too much time. Again, we're trying to minimize the amount of time that it takes to move from exercise to exercise. And as we get tired, that's the first place that our brain's like, well, I'm not really taking a break. I'm just, making sure that I'm appropriately set up. All right, there we go. And suddenly, you're like, well, I don't know where that first 20 seconds went, officer. I swear, it was right here a second ago. So, something to keep in mind, and we all do it. Absolutely. It is not something that goes away. That desire to just like, well, I'm still technically moving, so I'm still meeting the requirements. All right, and back, those cross jacks. And, a lot of the process of fitness is just as much communicating with our brains as communicating with our bodies and training our brains, because our brains are here and they just want to take care of us. They just want to keep us safe. They just want to make sure that when that saber-toothed tiger bursts into the room, we have enough energy stores left to be able to run away. And we appreciate that. Brain, thank you for your service. Thank you for trying to protect us. We love you for that. Also, that's not a relevant concern when I'm, on the second floor of my house. And so we want to make sure that we are having those conversations and that we are aware that our brain is sometimes trying to pull a fast one on us, and that we need to pay attention to that. Do you know pigeon pose? Yes, but this is not a yoga class. All right, next set is going to be our extended crunches and our side-to-side planks. So our extended crunches, similar to the last set, you want to make sure you're alternating each time. So one arm held above the head, not on the floor. That shoulder is activated, okay? And then we're engaging and contracting the abdominals to pull that arm up towards the opposite leg and down, but now the leg and the arm are still off the ground. And then contract, extend, contract, extend. So we do one side, then we do our side-to-side planks. Y'all know side-to-side planks at this point. Then we do our other side and side-to-side planks again, okay? All right, here we go. So we are doing some cross jacks, da-da-da, and then immediately down and getting going. And remember that this is
a core exercise. So you're not trying to just lift the leg up and sort of throw the arm at it. You want to feel that engagement, that contraction, particularly in the obliques, which are along the sides of your abdominals, to bring that arm up to the opposite foot. So if you're getting out of this and you're like, I don't really feel anything, then you are probably not engaging your core, which is fine. It's a really easy muscle group to compensate for when it's weak by using other muscle groups. And all of us have been there, but it is something that we need to pay attention to. All right, so our side-to-side planks, we know, we love them. We're going here, making sure that our shoulders are nicely engaged and stable. We're going through that front plank each time, moving back and forth and not sinking into the shoulders again. We want to make sure that the shoulders are stable and strong the whole time. So I don't ever want to feel myself drop. I can't even do it anymore, which is good. Our shoulders are our most unstable joint, and that's deliberate because they're designed to have a huge range of motion. And we like that. It's very useful, but it does mean that they are very prone to injury, particularly when we don't deliberately pay attention and strengthen them up, okay? So whenever we are doing shoulder-focused exercises, I really want you to concentrate on that stability and that strength, and making sure that it's there, and not that you're not feeling yourself rolling around in the joint, okay? Because that opens us up to a whole host of potential injuries that, trust me, we would all like to avoid. All right, back to those side-to-side planks. I'm gonna take a quick rest because my hand is definitely feeling some things. Look, friend, as I said, this is not a yoga class, and we are not at a stretch time, so I'm going to time you out for now. Please remember what I said if you want to remain in chat, okay? All right. Sorry, I know that I get to pause a lot during this class. It's, yeah, you know, it's not fair. I understand. Don't worry, I'm still working hard, but, yeah. Okay, so we are just about halfway through this timer. Yeah. So round 2 of our crunches. So really focus in. Are you feeling that it's the abdominals, that it's those obliques in particular that are lifting the leg, lifting the chest and the arm, and bringing them together? Because if that's not what you're feeling, then I want you to reset, and I want you to pay attention to what muscles you do feel like you're using, okay? Because, yeah, like I said, and this is something that I honestly, until last year, I was absolutely not engaging my core for our core exercises the way that I should have been. And that was a a huge, an amazing improvement in my own fitness over the course of last year as I started to pay better attention to actually engaging my abdominals for those abdominal exercises. What a wild and wacky idea, right? But like I said, it can be really easy for us to compensate for weak abdominal muscles by using other muscle groups. And we don't even necessarily notice that we're doing it because, you know, if those groups are stronger, then they can bear the additional work more easily. And if you're always doing core exercises and never feeling any, you know, exhaustion or fatigue or engagement, then it's really easy to be like, oh, well, I just must have a super strong core. That's it. That's got to be what it is. And I did that for ages. And, you know, I've always had a pretty strong core. You know, you don't, you're not able to be a dancer for the majority of your life without developing a strong core. But there was absolutely still work that I could do. And I didn't even realize that I wasn't doing it. So if it feels like I focus on that a lot, well, I do. But part of it is, of course, I focus on the things that I personally have noticed in my own fitness journey, right? So I focus on shoulder strength and stability because that's where one of my major adult injuries has come from, is in my shoulder. And I focus on core and really making sure that we're using those abdominal muscles, both because I know how easy it is to not use them and not even realize it, and also just because I love core exercises, and the core is such an amazing stabilizing muscle group for us to be using. So yeah, just, you know, we are always driven by the things that have impacted us. All right, you're back doing your cross jacks, having a good old time, and yeah, oh, good timing. So we've got one more set, and then at the end of that set, we're not finished, but it'll just be a super quick pause for you to be doing cross jacks while I switch over to the calf awareness timer, okay? But yes, as you're cross-jacking away right now, hopefully drinking plenty of water, because that's super important. Take comfort in the fact that this is going to be the last intensive set, and then we're just going to do our everybody's favorite calf awareness to cool down. Yeah, all right. So our last set, and I'm just going to move this mat. Oh, it was so easy for a second there. Dang it. All right, that mat on the floor just for myself. So we've got skips and we've got bear crawls. Skips, just in one place on the mat. Knee comes up, opposite arm comes up, hop, and switch. Super simple, y'all know this. And then bear crawl. So starting in that downward dog position, you can take your feet about hip width apart, and then forward until your shoulders are directly over your wrists. Bring those knees down almost all the way to the floor, but not entirely. So they should still be like an inch off the floor. And then push back and forward and back, etc., etc. All right, my friends, we're coming to the end. You do have to go back into cross jacks at the end of this, but we are almost done, I promise. So, from cross jacks, as soon as you hear that horn, we will start with skips. Man, these puzzle pieces are very noisy when I don't have the mat on them. And when we're doing jump-based exercises like this, and this is technically one, it's good to have a thick mat. So these puzzle pieces are, you know, probably about 1 inch in thickness, and that just helps to cushion your joints, you know, because this is wood flooring that I'm on, and that's not particularly comfortable for my joints. So you want to have something a little more padded at your disposal for any of these types of exercises when you're working out inside. And when you're working out outside, so if you're a runner, for example, just making sure you're paying attention to the overall surface that you will be working out on. So if you're running on concrete, you want to make sure that you have some really good padding in your shoes to better cushion the joints. Whereas if you're doing trail running, you can afford to have a little bit thinner of a shoe, okay? So I love to focus on the fact that you really can exercise pretty much anywhere, and that is true. But you also do want to make sure that you are aware of your surroundings and aware of the impact that they may have on your body, on your joints, and on your exercise overall. So, like, the reason that I got these puzzle pieces in the first place was because when I was teaching and we would do any exercise that required rolling on my back along my spine, so any of the turtle exercises or shrimps or boat rocks, anything like that, my spine was just impacting with the ground, and I was getting really awful bruises. So you want to make sure that you're aware of those things and try to set up your space accordingly. Now, the flip side of that is that the super padded, flexible surface, that's really great for my knees when I'm doing jumping exercises, and really great for my back when I need to roll along my spine, is not necessarily as great for my wrists, because on a surface like that, they're going to hyperextend, and that can cause lots of issues. And you notice that today I pulled the top mat off of the puzzle pieces, and I'm doing the bear crawls basically on the floor. And that's because my wrists have been feeling a little bit twingy the last couple of weeks. And part of that, gets into me not having taken enough rest time. But also, it's just a good signal that for a little while at least, I want to be aware of which surface I'm on when I'm doing anything that requires me to have my hand flat on the floor and have my wrist, at that perpendicular angle. So never be reticent to make those types of modifications, okay? They are absolutely always there for you, and you should make them because we want to keep ourselves safe, and that does not require me giving you permission, okay? You do not need my permission to modify push-ups so you're doing them from the fists or from a push-up handle. You do not need my permission to modify which version of cross jacks you're doing or to switch up the type of push-up that you're doing today, all right? This is one of the reasons why we talk so frequently about the importance of getting to know our bodies, getting to know their strengths, getting to know the places where they need a little more help, paying attention to our overall injury map and injury history, and learning how that impacts what we are able to do today, okay? And you want to have that information at your fingertips because ultimately you are in charge. I'm just here to guide the way. You are the one who needs to know what's safe for you to do, what's not safe for you to do, what you may need to modify a bit, what you may need to work towards. That is on you. And the more that you learn about your body and its needs, and the more that you respond to the signals that it sends you, the better off you will be, because you will be creating that relationship of safety and trust and communication with your brain and your body, and they will know that you will take it seriously when they let you know something's wrong, and so in turn they will not, pull the emergency cord super early before something actually is wrong. All right, back to those cross jacks, but don't worry, we are almost done. It's time for the cool down. It's time for calf awareness. So you're cross jacking just long enough for me to set up the timer. There we go. All right, so as soon as you hear that horn, you're gonna balance flat on one foot. All right? Okay. Okay. So this is our cool down. This is our opportunity to deepen our breath, slow down the rate of breath, which will slow down our heart rate, and just really focus in on what we're doing. So right now, we're just balancing, and we're trying to manage any micro adjustments that we need to make using only the foot and the ankle. So trying not to wave our arms around, let our torsos go all over the place, let that foot, we're not mimicking a tightrope walker here, okay? So how do we do that? Well, as we switch sides, what we do is focus in on those stabilizing muscle groups. So we start with the core, all right? Our abdominals, engage them. That brings the entire torso under control. When we engage the glutes on the working leg, that ties everything together from the hips up. Ditto once we do the quad on the working leg. So now everything from the knee upwards is basically one cohesive piece. And so by the time we get down to the ankle and the foot, they are working to stabilize one cohesive unit rather than a bunch of disparate things, okay? Now, when the timer goes off again, we'll switch back to that first foot, but this time we will be balancing up on the ball of the foot. So this is about to ramp up the difficulty pretty quickly. Here we are. So everything I just talked about still applies. However, I recognize that this is a much harder position to hold. And if you, like me, are on a really flexible surface, it becomes even more difficult because we're not on something that's staying flat under our feet. We're on something that's trying to depress down, it's shifting position, and that will knock us off our balance. So if you need to come down and reset, that's totally fine. You can see that I'm doing that plenty. Just try not to let yourself fall out of the balance, okay? So if you're like, all right, I need to get out of this balance because I'm gonna fall, control the heel. All right, other side. Control the heel, then reset, get back into position, hold it as long as you can, and then do it again, okay? You will probably also find that one side is better at this balance than the other side is. And that is totally fine and very normal because we're not symmetrical creatures. So my left leg is better at this balance than my right most of the time. And the thing to keep in mind is, just as we are not symmetrical here, we are also not always going to have the same level of performance, all right? Now when that timer goes off, again, we go back to the first foot, and now we're doing moving balance. So we go up on the ball, then rock back on the heel, okay? All right, so up on the ball, back on the heel. Up on the ball, back on the heel. And we just keep doing that. Check in on that core engagement. I am willing to bet you may have left it behind a while ago, and I'm also willing to bet that when you get it back in place, you will notice an immediate improvement, okay? Another thing to help steady you here is to find a place, just a single point on the floor ahead of you or on the wall in front of you, and just stare at that point, okay? Unmoving point, and it will help to just anchor you spatially so that you're not worried about falling all over the place. And if you're still falling all over the place, don't worry, so am I. All right, switch feet. There we go. So what I was trying to say a couple of intervals ago, and I sort of cut myself off because the timer was about to switch, was that just because one side is usually stronger than the other at balance or at anything, it doesn't mean that that is going to be the case every time we exercise. So, you know, if you're like, this is supposed to be my strong side and it's really not hanging on today, that's fine. We're allowed to have off days. We're allowed to have days where we're not quite as stable. All right, last timer coming up. Both feet on the floor. Rock back on those heels. Keep the toes off the ground until the final horn goes off. So we balance as long as we can. If we need to, we shuffle around and reset. Shuffle around. Get that core in on the action. Don't worry about letting your butt come up behind you a little bit, keeping a flat back with the back. That's all okay. And we're just keeping those toes up. That is the most important thing. This is really intense on your shins in particular. But you know what? We're here. We've made it through an hour of class. This is week 4 of Perpetual Motion in April Powers. You have been kicking ass and taking names. So as we finish out this timer, I want you to pat yourself on the back because you have done an incredible job. Yes. Oh my goodness. Good job, everybody. Wow. Wow. All right. Well, there we go. That was a heck of a closeout to April Powers, for Perpetual Motion at least. We've still got 3 more classes this week, but congratulations. Quick, have some celebratory water. Yeah. And you know what? You should be so proud of yourselves for sticking through this entire month, for everything that you've achieved. I know that I'm proud, and I know that I didn't get through as many of the goals as I had hoped to, and I also know that that's okay. Life happens, things change. We need to be able to shift our goals at the same time, okay? And that is what we're here for, and that's what we've been working for this entire month. So no matter what, no matter whether you absolutely crushed every single goal that you intended to hit this month, or whether you're like, well, I'm still here, but that's about it, you should still be incredibly proud of yourselves, okay? Because yeah, 4 weeks is super intense. And next week, we are going to circle all the way back and redo the programming from week 1. So you're going to get a chance to go back and test yourself basically against where you were at the beginning of the month. And that's my favorite part of the month-long programming, honestly, because it gives us such a clear object lesson of, no, this is how far you've come, and this is how much you've achieved over the course of this month. So get ready for that. So we're going to have 1 more week of doing this program, but it's going to be awesome, okay? It is going to be absolutely excellent. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to it, and I hope that you are too. Alrighty, so there are 3 more classes this week, 3 more chances to round out week 4 of April Powers. So tomorrow at 4:30 p.m. Mountain Time, we've got Jump Around, our weekly cardio class. Friday at 6 p.m. is Functional Home Fitness, where we do weight training using objects you can find around the house. And then Saturday morning at 9 a.m. is the weekend kickoff, which is our awesome strength and stamina focused bodyweight class. So definitely come in and join for any or all of those classes. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. All those handles will be in my end cards, but they are all variations on Blanche Case Fitness. My YouTube channel is where I upload all the VODs from these streams, so you never have to miss a class, even if you can't make the live cast. So definitely head over there and subscribe. If you want to help support me financially in making these streams, I have a Ko-fi account for one-time donations, or you can subscribe to this channel if you're able to support on a more long-term basis. And either way, your donations are always very much appreciated. And if you want to help me keep growing this channel and this community, then please tell your friends, loved ones, coworkers, anyone looking for an awesome class. I stream 4 days a week. We have a great community here. We have a lot of fun, and yeah, it's a good time. So it is now pouring rain outside, which is absolutely lovely. It makes me just want to make a lot of tea. So everybody,
Make sure to finish off your water, refill, keep hydrating. Make sure to start replenishing those glycogen stores by getting a good dinner. Take that celebratory post-workout shower, and I will see you all back here again tomorrow night. Mwah! Have a great night.